For February 21st, 2025, we talk about Elden Ring Nightreign, Psychroma, The Thing Remastered, and much more. Welcome to Level 533. My name is Kole Ross.
I'm Dennis Furia.
I'm Moxie.
And I'm Jala Prendez.
And you're listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. Moxie, welcome back.
Hey, good to be back. Good to be back.
Yeah. You're doing some life logistics stuff.
Yep. Coordinate. I'm gonna be doing a move soon, so had to take some time. Receive the pods, and all those sorts of things.
I want to hear how that goes, because that scene, I don't know. It's not going to turn this into an ad. I just want to hear how that goes.
Yeah, definitely.
Using that pod thing. Yeah. So what have you been up to besides life logistics stuff?
We had a DJ dance thing this last Friday that was raising money for the local bail fund.
Okay.
So kind of a combination goth night / queer night / Valentine's Day night / fundraiser.
Cool.
But was a lot of fun, really well attended. Although it is funny, like any sufficiently large grouping of queer people just becomes like was a clouder of cats. And so it ended up being like not so much people dancing as people just kind of like laying around playing cards and stuff.
Is everybody just kind of draped over whatever happens to be nearby?
Yep, 100%.
The ennui was palpable.
That's cool. Yeah. Anything else?
Went to the protest yesterday, which was kind of fun. I forget what the parent organization is, some name that's like all numbers, and therefore is completely slides off my brain. But the big national thing went to the local version of that, so that was really cool, especially because it seemed like the people who were organizing it was maybe their first like protest they had organized, because a lot of things were kind of seat of their pants, but at the same time, lots of people showed up, and it was a good organization. So I'm glad that people, these people were able to kind of do their first thing and have it be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these protests were nationwide, right? So I imagine the teams had to get pretty granular by location when people who might otherwise kind of swoop in from a bit further away to help are otherwise engaged.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Was there anything in particular that they were speaking out against, or was it just kind of a general,
It was pretty general.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty general. Like, heard everything from tons of like anti-Musk, and just generically anti-Trump stuff. Pro immigration stuff, pro Palestine stuff, pro LGBT rights, pretty much the whole nine yards. I don't know. It was called like the protest was called like, I don't know, like the No Rulers, No Kings protest or something, like our local one, which is normally that's like anarchist type slogan. So I don't know if the group that actually organized it was like a like an anarcho-socialist group, but like from what I've seen, like normally it's like, with that sort of thing, it's like there'll be some group that technically organizes it, but then most of the protests I've been in end up being kind of just generically left-wing protests, if that makes sense.
Yeah, running the gamut, resistance lib up to kind of more radical folks.
Exactly.
Well, and again, across the nation, it was kind of anti-Project 2025.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Which you might as well say the entire left agenda.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Just because
not a lot that they leave off the table with 2025.
Right. It is so inescapable. Yeah, I was just curious because like the stuff that I've been seeing most recently has been like specifically at like Tesla dealerships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there was a particularly like with the signs and stuff, a ton of mocking Musk. There was a big effigy of him that was pretty funny. Some people were carrying around just stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much of that is because he's kind of an easy target to make fun of.
I mean, he's the richest person in the world, and he's a real dipshit who doesn't know anything and has very bad beliefs. Yeah, and
And also, and I realize this is obviously the least important thing, is very bad at video games and is very dumb about it.
Yeah, it's we talked about that at some point, like very specifically the Path of Exile thing. Yeah, it's just
I did just in a like I know it's sometimes funny how dumb and crazy the world is. Did you see the thing with like his ex-wife appearing to have been like bribed to post on Twitter about how great at video games he is?
No, I didn't see that. It's a really dumb and bad thing to care about, and might as well throw it on the pile.
Sure.
It was literally like this message written exactly how you would write the whole like borderline straighting, like, I of my free will post this message that I am writing. And then just posts it, and then the very next message he posts just says, sigh.
Oh, man. Cool. Well, Day of Protest sounds fun.
Yeah, it was good. Good time.
Jala, you're here. You've been here for several weeks now in a row. Thank you so much.
It's a streak we've got going here. Mm-hmm. So what have I been up to lately? I had a really, really busy weekend. I went antiquing and I got like this super 60s couch. I'll have to post it in the background chat so y'all can see my very 60s couch. I got a little love seat for like $70 and it's very comfortable, but it's very, very 60s. And I got a new chair for my workroom. And we did that, and basically we're looking around a bunch of places. And see how very lemon yellow that is?
Yeah, I was thinking it was either going to be yellow or orange, but I knew there would be brown.
Yes.
Where did you? Oh wait, no.
It's in the backstage.
Yeah, I have too many ways I communicate with people now. That is, that's sharp. I like that.
Yeah, I just have to throw like a brown throw blanket over the top of it, and it's fine. It's very comfortable. It's much better than the wicker settee that we had before, so not complaining about that. When we picked it up, everybody at the antique mall was like, "Oh, I know that couch because that's very like everybody came by and sat on that couch. It was like, "Oh, that's very comfortable." So we picked a winner.
I think you should subvert it. You should find like the loudest couch cover you can possibly do, because then if like it's on it and someone takes it off, it'll be like, those things where like someone pulls off Batman's mask, he has another mask underneath.
Right.
I think you should go the other direction. Put to go truly 60s, cover it in like the stickiest, like gummiest plastic sheet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. But So either way, we have that now, and I have a new comfortable office chair, or it's not actually an office chair. It's an antique chair that I'm using in my studio room so I can do artworks and writing and stuff in a comfortable chair. But then after we went antiquing for a full day, then we decided to go thrift shopping for a full day. We were actually looking for Dave to get Dave some more stuff for work. But because he's a weird size and it's very hard to find his size in any store, we had no luck whatsoever because, again, he's a weird size. However, I found like so much stuff. I posted a bunch of it in my my own server. But like I found so many clothes, so I'll post a few of the highlights in the backstage for y'all to see my new fashion that I picked up. But
so what is the difference between thrifting and antiquing? Because those seem very
thrifting. Well, thrifting is primarily emphasizing like clothing and stuff like that, whereas antiquing is like furniture and knickknacks from like an even older era. Like thrifting is not usually like, 1800s, early 1900s or anything like that. Thrifting stuff is like the last couple of decades or so, maybe a little bit longer than that, possibly.
Like thrifting is also like a lot of stuff that was just given away. And like antiquing is like private dealers, and by dealers I mean just like, oh, this house, it's a hoarder house that somebody put a sign in front of, and they will name a price on something all the way up to like people with stalls at antique mall kind of things.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and there's been a way cooler song made about thrifting than there has about antiquing.
Well, I will say one of the things that I found when I was thrifting was like a suit jacket that looks like it was tailored for me because it's the exact right size.
Oh, that's cursed.
Which
Don't put
is
that on.
Wild. Too late.
It's a cloaker.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, it's pretty fantastic, and I've been enjoying. Like, I even got like a really long black trench coat that's it's fake leather, it's man-made leather and man-made fur, so I don't feel bad about having it. But I got it for $25, and it has like a fur collar trim and then fur collar on the wrists, and then it's real baller. So
$25 for a long jacket like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty happy.
Petroleum is made out of like old dead fossils and stuff, and plastic is made out of petroleum. Is plastic technically vegan?
A lot of the oil that we get is not dead dinosaurs. It is rotting vegetation.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
It's impossible to know, but there's plausible deniability. Go ahead, John.
Right. Well, and then on Sunday, we went to a horror market. So the Houston Horror Festival had a little market at a brewery we had not been to before. So we got beer. We got to hang out with a friend of mine and their mom, and then met some other folks. And then we went to this little horror market and walked around as like a precursor to the convention, which is in August. And then after that, we had free tickets. The horror market was free. And then we went to a comedy show that we got free tickets to the last time we went to a comedy show. So, and that was very, very fun. The guy was Jesus Trejo, and he was very funny. So look him up. He's pretty good.
Nice. That was a busy weekend.
Busy ass weekend, yes.
Dennis, how about you?
I got a project update. So I mentioned that I started making a custom base for my new pedals, and I dropped a picture of that into the Slack. I believe it's above Jala's couch, but finished that literally tonight, or rather I should say, picked that up from my mother-in-law tonight. So she is an excellent woodworker and has put together something that fits exactly what I need. You can kind of see that there's like a little strut behind the front leg that kind of locks it into the table exactly where I want it.
Yeah, so it'll slide around.
Yeah. So nothing fancy, but I'm very happy with the new setup.
Looks like a remnant countertop kind of thing.
Yeah, it actually was an old TV stand, and she was like, "Oh wait, I can take this. This is about the right dimensions, and I can kind of add some stuff onto that." So yeah, it's can we call that upcycling? I'm going to call that upcycling.
Yeah, repurposing.
Yeah.
I love that.
But now
I've
got that kind of. Oh, say again.
I love that when you said pedals, I was like, oh, is he doing something with his guitar? And I'm like, no, that's probably not right. He's probably teaches kids how to ride a bike. And it's like, nope, it was the third one.
Yep. But I like to imagine that this gives me a little bit of station wagon chic to my iRacing.
Got the Woody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, between that and the couch. Yeah.
It's pretty sweet. So that was the exciting new thing for me. I have yet to take it out for a test drive, but surely will before too long.
Ooh, those pedals are sharp.
I just can't get over Thrustmaster.
Yes.
That company's been around forever. They've had a lot of opportunities to change that name if they wanted.
Right.
It's actually, you can see I don't have a cover on the clutch on the far left there, and there's some very interesting attachments you can get for that tie to the name. Force feedback, baby.
Woo!
Man,
No.
I'm really disappointed. I was trying to pull up pictures of like Woody racing rigs because I'm sure someone has made that. However, Google just like auto shows like, oh, we're just going to show you wood racing rigs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, well. Yeah. So fun stuff on that front.
Cool. No, I just had a busy work weekend. My sister had a birthday, which was cool. Had a party over at my dad's. So happy birthday to my sister. Speaking of birthdays, Jala said that Greg's having a listener's having a birthday coming up here soon too. Big 4-9.
Happy birthday!
Yeah,
nice. Happy birthday.
Yeah, that's a clean square. You got to celebrate those.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
Cool. Well, other than that, just games, and you know what to do. We've got to do the regular kind of show to talk about those. So why don't we do the grind, the multiplayer, and the end boss, and we can get started with The Grind, where we talk about the games we've been playing over the past period of time or so. Moxie, you've been away the longest, so I'm going to go to you.
Yeah, so I've actually got something new. It is not going to be like the 53rd week in a row of me playing nothing but Dying Light 2. So, yeah.
Man, I just lost a bet.
You know, you should have coordinated it beforehand. I could work something out.
Yeah,
fair.
Yeah. So, one of the people, one of the fans on the network, Addy, recommended a game called Psychroma, which this is I think the best way to describe it would be a cyberpunk queer psychological horror game. So in terms of gameplay itself, it's squarely in the walking simulator genre. You know, it's mostly just walking around, interacting with things, kind of working your way through this story. It's got a really interesting, to me at least, art style. I'm sure someone that was like better at these sorts of things would be able to say like it's probably a call out to some specific style. But to me, it reminds me a lot of there's kind of the break where a lot of console pixel games, were very stylized and small sprites and lots of uses of like dithering and stuff like that. Whereas a lot of what I associate with like PC pixel graphics being much more like attempting to be more realistic or, more directly representative graphics and a lot more just like flat colors, that sort of thing. And this is much more the PC style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This kind of looks like a cross between the art for like I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream and Snatcher.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit. Yeah.
Which, I mean, would be kind of appropriate, cyberpunk horror, that sort of thing. But yeah, so the highlight here is definitely the storyline. It's set in this cyberpunk world, entirely taking place in one house where basically a older couple have bought this kind of multi-level house with the intent of kind of having it be a place of refuge for and building a found family.
Mm-hmm.
And so all the rest of the characters are various people that have most of them were homeless before they moved to the house, or were orphans or that sort of thing, that have kind of all come together to live there.
Mm-hmm.
However, the house appears to be haunted, maybe. And
hell yeah.
In traditional video game style, your character, who's Hayes, has lost their memory.
Mm-hmm.
Starts out the game with no real memory of any of the other characters, that sort of thing, despite having lived there for at least a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And also, as is appropriate for a cyberpunk game, has the ability to kind of jack into a computer system and visit other people's recordings of other people's memories.
Yeah.
And that, combined with the the aforementioned haunting, is kind of psychological horror ensues.
Mm-hmm.
I would say there is a little bit of what I guess could be technically called jump scares, but it's mostly kind of that of that sort of retro era where it's mostly just like you're walking and either a sprite of a person appears in front of you or disappears in front of you, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not jump scare as we would kind of think of it today. It's much more of the horror comes from some significant body horror elements.
Yeah.
And then also, I would say kind of the core of it is the storyline is very, very, especially once you start into the exploring memories, is very non-linear and surreal, and it's often very difficult to piece together what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, to me, I feel like the soul of this from a horror perspective is probably more kind of mystery solving and surrealism type of thing than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I wouldn't say is necessarily something that I think the game explicitly tries to do. So I don't think it's necessarily an experience, most players would have, but I will say a experience that was really cool for me is I, had a couple of instances where I had to specifically check, all right, am I in a memory right now, or am I actually in the events of the game? If I screw with stuff, is this going to cause long-term consequences or not? Which is just cool because that's such a kind of motif of this sort of genre that it's cool to actually have that happen.
To just naturally fall into that kind of derealization, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's not the hit you over the head. Your character has voice lines saying, "Whoa, am I in a memory right now or not?"
Right. Exactly.
This sounds like it's a Bloober Team game, but it's one of their better ones. Have you played or heard of Observer?
I have heard of it. I don't really know anything about it, but I've heard of it.
It's kind of a similar thing. You're in an apartment complex trying to solve a murder, but you are able to like jack into people's memories. It's very surreal, and there's reality breakdown stuff that goes on. It doesn't have the kind of queer angle to it, but just kind of a similar premise. And I greatly enjoyed that game. So I don't know, maybe I should check this one out.
Yeah, I definitely would recommend it. The one thing I would say, both as way of recommendation for people who are thinking about maybe checking this out, and also though a little bit as like, I don't know, kind of content warning. I actually found despite all the body horror and just straight up regular horror and stuff like that. The thing I found actually kind of most distressing about this game is it takes a very realistic and focused I guess emphasis on depicting the complications that go along with like found family, especially when some of the people experience trauma. Okay. So things like certain characters kind of being forced to do emotional labor that they really don't want to do, or there's a scene where your character's boyfriend is eventually breaks down sobbing because he's upset that you aren't willing to open up about your trauma to him. And feels that you don't trust him, like stuff like that. Like I would say that at least for me, like on the one hand that was very powerful. I think that speaks to this being an effective, story. On the other hand, like I could see how that could be upsetting for some people.
Yeah. Just being in an intimate or vulnerable family-like situation with a group of people who you do not necessarily have a shared kind of common background or experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But trying to think if there's anything else I really enjoy. It's pretty short. According to Steam, it took me about 5 hours to beat, and I was fairly inefficient, and like I often just went like something would happen. All right, therefore I'm going to just go talk to everyone and interact with everything to see anything that might have changed.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a compliment to the game, right?
Right. But yeah, I could see people that, kind of approach it less mechanically. It, might not even take that long. But another thing, Addie recommended that apparently the team that made this also does a Cyberpunk 2020/Cyberpunk Red podcast. Yeah. That she likes called Dark Future Dice. So that also, is definitely something I'll be checking out.
Cool. I'm going to ask about any kind of adventure game thing like this. Rigor, how much rigor is in the puzzles?
I would say almost none. I would borderline say there are no puzzles. There are the puzzling aspect is more generally just kind of like I said, like wandering around, talking to people, that sort of thing, and like eventually, talk to the people, kind of do what you need to do to make the storyline advance. So this is much more walking simulator, like visual novel in the literal sense of the term, than it is like strong gameplay.
Gotcha.
Or, you know what I mean. The biggest one with that is you do eventually get into some minor stuff you can do with like backtracking into like, oh, here's a memory that I had finished, but I now know more. So like I potentially know like the door password that I didn't know before, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So I would say that sort of thing is probably about the most it gets.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard about this before. It looks neat.
Yeah, definitely recommend it.
I don't have any more questions about that. Does anybody else?
Nope. I was just taking a look at it while you were talking, but I had also seen it when it was recommended and was like, that looks kind of interesting. I'm going to wait and see.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. I've got a new one.
Yay!
Go for it.
I got into the Elden Ring Nightreign network test.
Ooh, right. Cool. How is that?
It's not for me.
Yeah, that was that was what I thought, although I haven't actually tried it.
Right.
Yeah, no, and I knew that the deck was kind of stacked against this really singing for me, don't like multiplayer games generally, especially ones you play with randos. Don't like things with a roguelike structure too much. Not really that crazy into battle royale kind of things. So it's kind of a lot of stuff going against it. Obviously I'm curious, because we're going to eventually cover it on Bonfireside Chat in some form or fashion. But I got in and played a couple of rounds of it, and it is just a network test, so I don't know how much of this to hold against it, but I don't know. I kind of don't know how much material we would get by talking about it on Bonfireside Chat. We'll do an episode about it probably, but something that I'm kind of, running up against with this, and it is clarifying to at least run into it and figure this out, is that From's the Souls Souls series kind of thing is really held up. It's like a three-legged stool kind of deal where for me, the elements that need to be present for this to be a stable thing at all is encounter design, narrative design, and level design. Environment design. So all of those need to have a certain amount of interest to them. Encounter design being enemies, bosses, mix-ups, your own capabilities, things like that. Narrative design being what is the story that's being told and how is it being told, and level design, space design being pretty much what it says on the tin, both the environmental aspects of it, the art, but also the actual layout of the space and the way that it interacts with the other two, and stuff like that. So going into this, it feels like Elden Ring. You're doing Elden Ring combat, but it's faster. You're jumping around, you can jump up walls. Things have a little bit more of a kind of a Bloodborne or Sekiro kind of pace to them that is borne out a little bit in the different player types. You don't make a character, you spec into, you start with in the network test, it was one of 4 different characters that have different ultimates, but also different player abilities. So one of them is a caster and has special, you take aspects from things that you that you kill and then use that to fire spells. One has a kind of semi-grappling hook kind of thing to either pull yourself or to pull enemies, stuff like that. So it is a game that feels like it is for people who generally want to Elden Ring around and kill a bunch of stuff in the way that Elden Ring will afford to you. But it is lacking in kind of entirely in level design and in narrative. I did not see in the network test any vector by which story about what exactly this is in relation to Elden Ring, what this is in relation to the rest of the From's games is. There's kind of no way for text or dialogue to be delivered to you. That could be different. That could be something that they just excluded. But like, we knew this from the trailer. You're fighting against old like Dark Souls bosses in some instances. Like the boss of the first night in this for me was the Centipede Demon from Dark Souls 1. Everybody's favorite boss encounter from Dark Souls 1. And then night 2 was Margit the Fell Omen, one of the first bosses you're going to run up against, except this time with a shitload of HP. Everything takes place on the world map, and you're kind of being chased around by a zone of danger, and going to different kind of open world dungeonlets in the middle of that. There's no real like exploration. It's just, all right, let's go over here and fight against the fire monk guys. And over here, yes, this is a ruin. Here are some just generic Lordsworn. And then you just kind of are chasing safe zones around, trying to kill stuff so you can level up, get items, or the random chance to draw items, and then pick how you want your build to go. I just kind of generally unimpressed, honestly.
Is this a new map?
Yeah, you're not just running around like the Lands Between. It is its own map, and I didn't see everything. I think that like what target you pick for the for what ultimately will be the end of the third night will maybe affect which places you go. I think it might just be like one big map that kind of they repurpose different parts of it. But like if you're just running around a big flat space, Elden Ringing around and fighting Elden Ring things without like a dungeon or a space to navigate, like it is so many different aspects of it removed of the context that it feels like an even more extreme variation of like why the Chalice dungeons don't work for me.
And you have an Elden Ring randomizer already. Like,
yes,
that's available.
That is, and that goes to a lot like a thing that people have said when I've kind of talked about like, oh, how this doesn't work for me, and this stands to reason. Like, this is them using existing tools and assets that they have in order to experiment around, kind of in the way that a modder would. They just have the internal resources to make it into a full blown product. It feels very mod like. Right, especially related to the way the loot system in this works. It feels very similar to like a Dark Souls roguelike mod that I played in the past, right?
So this does seem like though it's kind of the logical extension of where they were going with Elden Ring in terms of like emphasizing more open world over bespoke. Kind of established set design, that sort of thing.
But even that, like the open world was a bunch of space that felt like it was designed really well for like sequencing encounters within it, especially as you poked around. But like you still spend a lot of time in legacy dungeons in Elden Ring.
Sure.
Like, it's a whole big ass Souls game, except you're not going from dungeon to dungeon to dungeon. There's, a space in between, a Zelda style kind of overworld with its own interest, kind of inside of it. It doesn't feel as anonymous in the base game and the DLC as this ultimately feels to me.
Is there meta progression?
Yeah. Finishing runs gets you things, I think they're called like ritual pieces, something like that. That you are able to affix for kind of permanent like advantages or like run customizers on the next run. I didn't finish a run in either of these. Communication was nil. I was not playing with people that I know. In fact, they got rid of the ability to use multiplayer passwords in it. And just because there were network errors and stuff. So like, yeah, didn't end up going the whole way, and I messed around with a few of them, but they didn't feel like they were making like as much of a difference for me. Again, this is a short-term network test. I don't think they were expecting people to like play enough to make a meta progression. So maybe that was not in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, into that side,
my fear with this is that, with them just getting purchased by Sony, that this is maybe the beginning of kind of them selling out. I hope it isn't.
This was in the works before that deal.
Was it?
Though? Yeah. Like every interview that I have read or seen cited says that this is something that they are genuinely interested in doing. And as far as that goes, I feel like it needed, if they need a place to experiment, they might as well do this.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah. Dennis, you were going to say something?
Well, on the side of this being a network test, did you see anything specifically along those lines in terms of connecting with others, how smoothly that went as you were playing with them? Like any kind of light silver lining there, or is it like, man, even for that dimension, it was unimpressive?
And so, like, in terms of like, oh, this is a game playing with other people. Like, did I get like fun multiplayer moments with other people in it?
Yeah, and then like the thing they're testing for of like, hey, are we setting up this network to run smoothly? Did you get any kind of read on that?
When I played it, the group passwords were still down, and group passwords are how you matchmake with, people in a community or with friends. So it was still playing with randos, and there was no voice chat or anything like that. So I didn't get any of that. That feature was down because of network performance issues, and like people were having a really hard time in the first session because this was run in like 3-hour bursts all throughout this past weekend. By the time I got in on Friday night and then Saturday afternoon, things performed pretty well. I was not like kicked out of things, and I got match made pretty quickly, but I guess the early going was rough.
Did you see any particularly good soapstone messages?
Oh no, there's no time. There's no time to look at anything. That's another problem. Everything is rush, rush, rush. Like when it came to like, looking at the loot and considering which one I want to do, like everybody was like, they picked up their shit and then ran. And if I didn't want to get left behind, I would have to do it immediately after. That is also me, like, playing games multiplayer gives me a lot of anxiety because I worry about making people wait. And this one's just like, yeah, no time to like look around or explore anything. We're going to move. Damn it.
Yeah, that just seems like a failure to adjust the battle royale genre to the needs of being a Souls-like.
I don't know that they're trying to bring battle royale people into this. I think that they're trying to... I know, sorry, I got that the wrong way around. I don't know that they're trying to bring Elden Ring people into Battle Royale. I think they're trying to bring Battle Royale people into Elden Ring.
Yeah, got to get a bite of that live service pie.
Yeah. Because that's going really well for a lot of people right now.
Right. It's going well enough for a few people that a lot of people are trying.
Yeah. So, like, I don't mean to be like totally negative about it. Like, I saw people had kind of neat things to say. It's just kind of this thing where it's not for me, and also like it's so not for me that I kind of don't know how to judge like its success at what it's attempting to do. Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, attempting to make money.
Well, I mean, yeah, but also just like to assess what it is doing in terms of like, like what is the actual experience that it wants us to have with it. Kind of neither fish nor fowl kind of thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, the way game design process goes these days, they very probably don't have a fully formed idea themselves. They'll be like, what did people interact with most in the network test? Let's focus on developing more of that.
Go fast and break things.
Oh, yeah. That's also working out really well for a lot of people. Any other questions about Elden Ring Nightreign?
No, I knew that was going to be about like that.
Yeah. It's pretty predictable, but worth checking in on anyway. Other thing, man, I just negative on a bunch of shit today. The Thing Remastered is bad.
Oh man, that is
I saw you talking about this. Yeah.
This is conceptually like one of... If games quality was measured by how much you vibe with the concept, this would be like my favorite game of all time. Yeah. It's just, yes. Not good.
Yeah. Idea only goes so far. You need execution with it. Right. Yep. Yeah. And, I only played this a little bit back in the day after it came out. I think I'd like checked it out from GameStop when I worked there. And I remember not particularly digging it. But, I just figured I'll set this down. And then when I saw the remaster was announced, like, oh yeah, they probably are going to modernize that and fix it. And it's worth going and taking a look again, because that concept is really cool. If you can ignore the fact that making a sequel to the movie The Thing is very dumb.
So it's technically, I think, vibes a lot with the Thing comic book.
Huh.
So like sequel of The Thing actually has a lot of history, but
I guess, yeah, it's just weird. I think about that movie being so singular. Like you're playing like the head of this like special forces team sent in to investigate why the Antarctic station went dark, because of The Thing, and things go very badly because there's things about. You're shooting a lot of aliens, but like the core concept of it is really neat. And the thing that I think lures a lot of people in is the fact that like it is squad based. You have up to 3 people with you that you can kind of command around. They have different roles. There's like soldiers, engineers, medics. There is a pretty involved like trust and infection system going on where like any one of the people who are with you may or may not be a thing who will transform and attack you at any time. And you have to, kind of guard against that, but also they will believe that you are a thing as well. And so you need to do stuff like give them weapons or ammo, or do a blood test on yourself, or blood test them to kind of establish trust so they will follow you around and do stuff with you. And that was fixed a little bit in this remaster because they made it not as scripted as it was apparently in the original version. A little bit more dynamic, which is neat. But the problem is that the game that system is attached to is a very bad third-person shooter with some of the worst encounter design I have ever seen. And by that, I mean it is constantly throwing this game's equivalent of head crabs at you. Now, if you're picturing just an even, unending flow of the most annoying, small, hard-to-hit enemies that can do a lot of damage to you, you're not picturing it frequently or unceasingly enough. I got stuck and I got really frustrated, but like I pushed through that. Like I pushed through a very bad, boss encounter. But the thing that made me give up on the second night was just, I went into another room and it was just more just screeching and growling and little things running around that are specifically designed, it feels like, to like mess with the auto aim snapping kind of thing, going on. I'm just shooting randomly around at these things and hitting my teammates. And it was clear the only trick that it had was just throwing as many things at me as possible. It was just too much. I lost all patience with it.
Well, it's also weird because the game has a very weak shooting system. And also, like, from a, kind of what we're talking about with the game I played, like, story and setting does matter. Like, it also has very strange ideas of what a gun should be like.
Yeah.
In that, like, you're in a freaking research base and you're just firing literally hundreds of rounds per encounter, you know?
And each of those little head crab things, again, it's throwing tens of them at you at a time. Like you will use up like a clip trying to kill one.
Yikes.
It's like, they're also like HP sinks too, or HP sponges.
Well,
yeah.
It's dumb because like, if you go back to the original movie, like,
there's no guns in it except for at the beginning when they're shooting at the dog from the helicopter. Right. Yeah.
And also like it does. Yeah. It's almost like this could be dumb, but like the flamethrower is almost a character in the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, it's very much like well done as like, oh yeah, I can just blow shit away with this flamethrower. Mm-hmm. What makes this scary is I don't know who to shoot.
Yeah.
And so it's like the game was right there. Like make it so that once there's a thing, I can just unload. but make the game be I'm scared because I don't know if there's a thing, you know?
Yeah, and just I don't know how you by being a PS2. I mean, it's a shooter. It's not really a survival horror game. The horror aspect
and that's
comes
the thing.
from
It never should have been a shooter.
Yeah, and just like I don't know how you do something that is the incredibly tense, paranoid and isolating experience that is the movie The Thing, and the premise, like what the premise lends itself to. And so it feels just like a wildly misguided product, so much so that I don't know why Night Dive bothered remastering it.
Yeah, it's too bad because like I could see, especially now in today's world, that we're kind of having a resurgence of sort of boutique, well-made horror games. Like, I could see someone making an amazing Thing game.
Yeah.
It would just need to be, like, don't make a remake, just make, like, what we should have made the first time, you know?
Yeah. No, just have Supermassive do it. Make it cinematic, or make it so there's, like, variation, like different people are the Thing each time. Like, something that is not entirely reliant on being a shooter, on you being, just Guy Whitey shoot good. Just rampaging across Antarctica. Guy Whitey shoot good can't be a title, because that is an ongoing meme on Watch Out for Fireballs.
Oh, damn it.
So this is off topic, but I do want to share just an anecdote. The way I actually got into The Thing, it's one of my favorite movies, that sort of thing. But the way I got into it is there's actually a Thing use map settings game on StarCraft. And it's set up. I don't know if this is still popular in like any of the modern things, but at least at that time it was pretty common to have there be a type of game where everyone controls one character and they're really powerful, and you go off and it's basically like an RPG.
Yeah.
And the game is ostensibly that. And so I go off and I'm somewhere in the map, and then all of a sudden you just get this message that, and I'm going into this blind, never watched the movie, knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
You just get this message that like, oh, by the way, one of the players that everyone is out of sight right now is now the Thing and is after you. Have fun. And so like, it was just, it was a dumb game. Like, it was, someone's mod, but it just very much was, I don't know, really the concept worked for me.
Remember that game, like, it was Deceit that we played, that we streamed a while ago? That's a better, the Thing game than this. And I guess there's that, what is it, like nuclear something.
It's like, I know
like
what you mean.
Like Nuclear Winter or something. I'll figure out what it is. But that is like that. It almost needs to be like a social deduction game. Nuclear Nightmare is what that is. That's like a basically exactly like this, like what this needs to be. I'm
just curious. Did you watch the trailer for this game?
No.
At least if the trailer's anything to go by, like, it goes way off the rails. Like, you get out of the Arctic eventually.
Yeah, like, and, like, they're trying to turn... They're collecting combat data and trying to turn the Thing into a BOW.
Oh God.
Yeah. And like, guess what? The final boss fight, who's helping you from a chopper? Oh shit, it's McCready.
Because of course.
Yeah, it's the protagonist of the Thing. He's alive after all, and it's like, okay, that's a little goofy.
Do they have, because I missed the first night of streaming, do they have the sled dogs?
You only spend a little bit of time in the like the original in the original facility. Like, you pretty much leave that immediately. Yeah. So I don't know. I was disappointed. I had looked forward to going back to and playing something a little bit older, because it's been a while since I had streamed something like that. It just those fucking crabs, man. It was just too much.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised you stuck with it as long as you did. Like, that was not well done. Like,
no. Swing and a miss. Thing and a miss.
Hey.
Thanks. Who wants to go next?
I have very little, so I should not anchor.
Okay. Jala.
Okay.
I said I should not anchor. I should not anchor.
Shit. Dennis. Sorry. I forgot what anchor meant.
You got to brush up on your track and field lingo.
Yes, yeah.
No, so I've played less than nothing this week. Just some.
Wait, how do you play less than nothing?
I don't know, but I did it.
You make games for other people?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
But you can't play test those games because that resets the counter.
Yeah.
No, so I got my old standbys. I think I'm coming up on 2 notable milestones that I'll talk about, and then I'll hand the baton over.
Okay.
In Slay the Spire, specifically the Downfall mod, I am on Ascension 20 with all the characters and only have 2 that I haven't beaten the heart, or in Downfall, it's the whale. It would kind of the Act 4 final boss with. So I'm very close to having, beaten that game with every character on the hardest level, which is exciting. Mm-hmm. And of note, because of the Slay by comment kind of thing that I do, I will have, in all likelihood, I will beat Downfall in that way before I beat the original game that way. So funny world. By the way, the Slay by Comment series is going strong. We are on the boss gauntlet for a run of the Silent. I know all these proper nouns are not helping anyone that doesn't play the game.
You guys have talked about it enough that I kind of the Silent's a character.
Yeah, that's the nearly naked chick with the sniper rifle, right?
Yeah, yes, in another world. Someone do that cross up.
But
anyway, the hilarious thing is the run has been an absolute trash fire. We have gotten no good cards. Constantly have RNG go against us. But sheerly by virtue of literally every decision having a day of discussion and hundreds of eyes on it, we are somehow still going. It's
people
a real
actually help you.
Oh yeah, so the format.
I know they were ostensibly supposed to. I'm just surprised they do.
Oh yes. The community around it is very intense and does way more math than I have ever done playing a game.
Got some bends in there.
Yes, very much. I have nerd sniped a lot of people with this. But yeah, it's just a testament to the game that, we can objectively have so much going against us, but just by playing slow enough and carefully enough, and thinking things through well enough, we've been able to keep our heads above water. So, that's my Slay the Spire update. And then for Trackmania, even though I love Trackmania, I play it constantly. I spend a lot of time creating in that game. I fell off of doing the tracks of the day. 2.5 years ago. So, every day there's a community made track that gets featured and there's a tournament on that track. And it's a really cool way to see all the crazy stuff you can do with the game. And I just hadn't touched it. I literally had 2 years plus of daily tracks banked up.
Oh shit.
And probably 2 months ago, I was like, all right, this cannot stand. I've got to start going through my backlog of these. And ladies and gentlemen, I have reached January. So I am in 2025.
Oh, wow.
And we'll most likely be caught up by the next time we record.
That was like 700
yeah,
tracks.
Yeah. It is, yes, very, very much a gigantic number of tracks. I have maybe 1 out of every 20 or something like that I'll spend a little bit of time on because I find it fun enough or intriguing enough to grind a little bit. Mostly I'm just going through getting, the first clean run, I take it and move on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a very nice podcasting game. I think I might have said that before, where I can put on a podcast in the background and kind of play this with the sound low, and do just fine. So that's like my meditative flow state gaming sessions a lot of nights, and I'm almost caught up. Mm-hmm. So that is what takes the place of me having any kind of news this week. Okay, Jala.
Okay.
Woot! Okay, so I have another of my constants. So I just want to give a brief update about Fire Emblem Heroes. Just to say, I have been replaying it now for a little while. It's been a minute since I picked it back up after my long lapse. And, power creep. It's fucking wild. Like I can play all the regular maps that are set up, but for the game, like when you are playing the game itself, like against the pre-made maps and things like that, I cannot, however, really play very well against any of the other players because they have been playing fanatically this entire time, and their characters are so powered up that like they will kill mine in one hit, or they can hit me from across the map, or stuff like that. Like they have 3 turns to my 1 turn and things like that, because they have just spent all this time investing in specific characters that they've powered up. And I've got one too that I have been powering up over time, but I haven't been playing for nearly as long as some of these people, and some of the newer characters that have come out since the last time I was playing are just so much more powered up than the prior units. Like you can't even use old units in hope to do anything unless you have spent a lot of time powering them up. So and that
is this either the Pepsi Chan one or the Fire Emblem Hogwarts?
It's the gacha game.
Yeah.
So
it's the one for phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I find Fire Emblem second only to like Kingdom Hearts in terms of having no idea how the like chronology works.
Well, that's okay because they're not really connected, although they keep on sticking all of the characters, like, like the newest one, Engage, that one has basically a bunch of characters from the other games that have come from different worlds. And then Fire Emblem Heroes, the mobile game, also brings all the characters together from their different worlds. So they have them cross over, but the stories themselves are individual. So...
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, like so when I say that people, you have to power up your unit, what I mean is like you have to play the game enough to get this one particular type of item to power up all the older units to get them to stay level with the power creep of, just like how strong the newer units are. But then you also have to grind through getting on the little gacha part of it, getting copies of the same unit that you can then merge together with your main, like your one that you're powering up, to give them extra levels and bonuses and stuff. And you can do that 10 times. So you have a bunch of different ways. And then, of course, you can transfer different abilities onto them and then also level up their weapons and then confer different types of blessings on them. There's a bunch of nonsense. And then now there's even like new systems I don't even know about yet, with aids and with emblems, and I don't know what's even going on with some of the power-ups anymore. So I am playing, but I can't, like, before I was like up there in the ranks in terms of how well I was performing against other players. I was actually doing really, really well for a while there, but like that's all down the drain, and I'm not going to get that back because I'm not going to spend all that time trying to dig into that. Like I play it a little bit here and there in my day. Like I mentioned before, this is like the game that I play when I'm in a work meeting and I'm, ignoring everybody. So that kind of thing, or when I have a few minutes and I'm just kind of zoned out or whatever. So but anyway, that's my Fire Emblem Heroes update. I am playing it and everything, but I'm not the addict that I once was, because I was playing it like all the time for a while there.
Yeah, and just Fell behind.
Yep. I mean, dang that phone of mine not deciding that I wanted to play the game for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyhow, I'm assuming there's no questions about that. So I'm going to move on to talk about Nina Aquila, Legal Eagle Season 1. So I brought this up last time, and I'm going to go ahead and call it now, y'all. I'm going to say that this is probably going to be my top favorite game that I have played for the first time in the year of 2025. I know it's February, but yeah, but I'm calling it here.
Okay.
So,
no, this is the RPG Maker Phoenix Wright alike.
Phoenix Wright alike, but it's an adventure game on top of having the courtroom visual novel drama type thing. You are still doing investigation. You are still doing the courtroom parts. However, this game has a lot of other elements that are going on as well. You have just like in the adventure game sections, you are doing a lot more stuff than you get to do in like a Phoenix Wright game. And you're also like your verb sets are expanded because in each of these different chapters, there's basically a different theme. It's kind of picking different media that's out there and then just kind of like focusing on it for that particular chapter. So chapter 1 was your introduction chapter. It's pretty short. It's just your tutorial. It's fairly straightforward stuff. But then the second chapter is the one that is Yu-Gi-Oh based. It's like Yu-Gi-Oh! There's an anime convention. People are cosplaying, that kind of thing. You're playing a card game, battling card game against each other, and you have these holograms of critters and stuff, and you actually get to play the game. It's a simplified version of a game. It's not, like the whole shebang of all the ins and outs of playing Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone or whatever, Pokemon or whatnot. But still, you are playing the game as you go through and everything like that, in order to learn everything so that you can do your best job as a defense attorney. So I was in the middle of that case the last time I was on, and I finished up that case, and the ending was great. Like when you learn what all is actually happening, it's very, very memorable and very fun. And then I went into the Initial D Fast and the Furious type street racing one, which is the third one. And so the third one, yes, you get to race. That's part of how you do some of your sleuthing work to get people to talk to you. You have to have, street cred. And so you have to race people to get the respect so that they will be willing to talk to you. And there's a lot of different stuff that happens. I really don't want to cover it here because I don't want to spoil it for folks, but it's very fun, very funny. There's a lot of different references to different types of things, very smartly written. Last time I had mentioned that I really wanted to know more about the prosecutor guy because at that point, like midway through the second chapter, like he was there, but he was definitely no Edgeworth type of character. He's still not an Edgeworth. He's a very different character, but he has a lot more dimension to him, particularly in the third chapter. And it looks like there will be more development of that going forward. But there's also an overarching storyline, which I didn't really mention previously, but it started developing really in the second chapter. And then in the third chapter, it developed a little bit further. And then it kind of like leaves off at the end of chapter 3. There's going to be more. So currently the creator, Ethan Fox, is working on the fourth chapter, which is going to be magical girl focused. So, but according to the little preview that you get at the end of chapter 3, it's a little magical girl focused. She's like, there's a girl and she is, shooting a magical girl TV show, but she's actually also a magical girl, and there's actually also demons, and she's fighting them, and this whole thing. So
magical girl being a genre of anime media, like thing like Sailor Moon.
Yeah, it's Sailor Moon.
But this is also a courtroom game?
Yes, it's also a courtroom game.
So are you like taking the demons to court? Like, is this becoming what's that the game with the printies?
I plead the fifth. I don't want to spoil things about this game, but suffice to say that there's a lot that's going on. There's a lot of references to a lot of things in video game and anime and manga culture. So, and, just kind of general pop culture. There is a guy in the third section who sort of looks like legally distinct Vin Diesel, who talks to you about how they're a family. So, it's a whole thing. It's pretty great. So it is referential, but in a way that is fun and doesn't feel like try hard or anything like that. Like it's very well written. Very fun, has a lot going on. There's a larger story at play. So, me and narratives. I like episodic things, but I really like it when there's something building up over time. And this has both of those two things happening. So I'm really looking forward to part 4 when it comes out. And I'm definitely going to be covering this on Jala-chan's Place since, Kole, you are too busy at this time with everything else to try to do a bonus level. But I am going to still make an episode on my show about this because I really want to talk about it in detail. So.
Awesome. Yeah. That like per chapter or per episode kind of mechanical hook, where the thing that is added reflects the subject matter of it. Like that is something that is true about like Phoenix Wright games, is that they are long. And sometimes by the middle of it, you start thinking, man, this all kind of feels very similar. So kind of addressing that, A, by making it shorter, but B, by like, okay, what if to reflect the thing, like this particular genre, what if we like just did the thing too?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love if the sequel was that you're on an Antarctic base trying to prosecute.
Yeah, I was asking for that.
Right. Well, I will say too that this has been like a really refreshing game in general, just because of the sensitivity to different populations as well. Because you've got the main character, Nina Aquila. She has an eye patch. She is missing an eye, but then like that's addressed directly a lot. Like people give her crap
Weirdly,
about...
the eye patch is not over the missing eye.
Anyway, Dennis.
Sorry.
So what I was trying to say is that people give her shit for having a missing eye. Thank you, Dennis.
I'm not giving her shit for the missing eye. I'm giving her shit for wearing the eye patch wrong.
Right. Well, anyway, so they have she has the eye patch, and it's brought up different times. Like, say for example, she has a car and she drives, and at one point her PA Dylan is like, "I didn't know that you could drive," and she's like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because of your eye, And then she's like, "No, they have some additional mirrors and stuff like that for me to use, but yeah, I can totally drive. It's fine." And different things like that, where it's addressing stuff about disabilities. It's addressing some LGBT stuff. It has, representation in the game as well. I liked that in the second chapter, during the little cosplay area, like when you're in the anime convention that you have to go to do your research about this whole murder that goes on in this place, there's a cosplay competition, and all these cosplayers are like lining up to get photographs taken. And then there's this big sign on the wall that says cosplay is not consent. And there's stuff like that. There's just like little touches here and there that are sensitive to a lot of different concerns that people have out there in the community. And I really like that quite a bit. So
cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Sounds like you're getting a lot out of it.
Oh yeah, I am. And I'm sure that on a replay, it's going to be even more fun, because now having everything in my head from having played it the first time, then I can go back through and catch all the little details.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know that I have any questions about it. It sounds neat. With the variety is the thing that stands out.
Yeah, and it doesn't get to the point where like it feels taxing to do any one particular thing. Oh, something else I wanted to say. It also has a lot of accessibility options in the menus. So, like I like that a lot. Like say for example, if you're playing the card game and you don't want to be like, "Oh man, I don't want to have to go through all this and then be forced to have to keep trying until I can beat it." They have a Nina doesn't take damage mode available. There's also with the racing, there's an auto race option and you can turn it on per race. So if you just want to sit back and just watch the race happen and then just, get the banter that happens that you need to see in the middle of the race and all of that, you can push the auto race button and it will just like go through the rest of the race for you. And then auto win if you're allowed to win, and it isn't a scripted lost or anything. So, yeah, I'm all for it. Love it.
Multiplayer.
Now to start with the multiplayer where we ask you a question and you answer it. Dennis, what is the question that you asked the nice people?
Yeah, we'll be a week removed by the time this comes out, but we just crossed Valentine's Day. So let's hear about your favorite romances in games. And this can be something that's actually in the game, or it can be a non-canon ship, if you like.
All right. I'll get us started here with Brookie, who says, last year, Karlach's romance in Baldur's Gate 3 became my favorite romance in gaming, replacing Zael and Callista from the last story. It was pretty close for a while, but Karlach's reaction to being told, I love you, is so incredibly adorable that I had to give her first place. Karlach's great. I like her. I wish that her romance line was a little bit more developed. Kind of shows that she was not intended to be a playable character until people really ended up liking her, to a degree. Like she is not as integrated into every step of the story as say a Shadowheart or an Astarion is. But
I killed Astarion, so I don't know how integrated he is into the story.
Good on you, Dennis.
Astarion's romance is really good. It's about like agency and trust. Yeah. Well,
Don't try to bite me in my sleep, then, motherfucker. Agency this state.
You were going to ask something, Moxie?
Oh, is Karlach? Is that the muscle mommy character?
Yeah, the tiefling barbarian.
Yeah.
Yes, she's great.
She calls you soldier, which is enough to sell me on her. In and of that. Hey, soldier. Okay. Yep. I'm going to follow you like a puppy dog.
Let's see, Moxie. What does Lucy say?
Lucy says, Rinwell and Law from Tales of Arise. Solid teen romance. Fang and Vanilla from Core of Final Fantasy Z. And really make the game work emotionally.
Final Fantasy 13. It's Fang and Vanille. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know who any of these characters are. I'm sorry.
I played a lot of the way through Final Fantasy 13. I know who those characters are. I know ultimately where they go, but I don't remember them being romantically involved. Yeah. Jala, what does Shishi Shibumi say?
They say, Parvati and Junlei in the Outer Worlds. The quest itself is a bit boring, but they are a very cute pair of gay engineers, and delightful to see ace representation. Awesome.
Yeah, never played the Outer Worlds.
Pretty good. I think Parvati was my first exposure to the concept of people being ace.
Huh. Nice. That sounds like it's good representation too. Let's see, Dennis, what does Dave say from Tales of the Backlog?
Yeah, Dave says Geralt and Yennefer from The Witcher 3. Are they the best for each other? Maybe not, but also most definitely.
Gosh, who was the romantic interest from Hearts of Stone? I'm asking this question, and nobody
Hearts
here.
of Stone.
Yeah, that's the second DLC.
Oh, no,
yeah.
I wouldn't know.
I really thought that their story was sweet together.
My favorite Witcher type thing like that is if you try to sleep with the succubus, where she just turns you down because she's like, no, you kill demons.
Shoot. Okay.
Especially because Raw is just straight up like, all right, no means no.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Might as well. Yeah, I can't. I can't find the name of the love interest from Hearts of Stone. Sorry, I was looking, but I had to give up. Let's see. RJ Sebastian says Gabriel and Grace in the Gabriel Knight series. Even though it starts out as a kind of workplace romance, it evolves to partners of equal importance and own strengths. Sad that it seems we won't see how it really turns out, since there probably won't be a Gabriel Knight 4. This is a very good answer. The way that leaves in episode 3 is kind of heartbreaking. She goes off to become, like the monster hunter of her own. Just saying like, yeah, I just, we cannot be tied to each other. It's kind of it ends on a real heartbreak there. Yeah. Let's see. Moxie, what does Robinson say?
Robinson says, I can't think of any romances I love, but there's this game, Even the Ocean, and the relationship between protagonists, Elif, I think, and Yara stands out. The ship is portrayed very flaws and all. There's a tenderness to them, but there's moments of unjustified anger from Elif to Yara. There's a tragedy.
And they continue. And there's a tragedy around Yara too. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a tragedy around Yara too that gives the whole thing a very melancholic vibe. But I crave melancholy in my fiction.
Never heard of it. Sorry to make that my response to so many of these.
Well, I feel like this is telling that like people kind of find their niche. Like this isn't super big, but it's mine. A couple to crush on. It's so funny because Robinson describes it as a ship, but it's like the canon romance in the game. So we gotta figure out the definition of that word.
Still counts as a ship, even if they end
really?
It's just a relationship.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
We're probably making someone on the
Even the
now.
Ocean, and I don't know what this game is. I like to imagine that he's literally in love with his ship.
That's literally how I read it the first time.
Jala, what does Mirko say?
Mirko says, Greg and Angus in Night in the Woods. It feels very real and believable with its ups and downs in the way they alternately clash with and complement each other. Also adorable.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was looking on Etsy. I found just earlier today. I found some Greg patches that I kind of want to get for my jacket.
Yeah, good characters. I didn't end up following their line when I played that. I was more interested in B. But yeah, that's a good game.
I loved when I realized that Angus is a bear.
He is, isn't he? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
God, such good characters in that game. I'm playing with my little my Germ Warfare figurine right here. Nice. The crow guy. Let's see, Dennis. What does Strawberry Jam say?
Strawberry Jam says, I remember being thoroughly touched by the Outer Worlds, Parvati, and Junle. Which is, I think this is a repeat, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I generally dislike romance in games, but this flipped it so the player was helping their companion. And 2, it was fresh to see my feelings on screen. It's so rare to see ace representation in games. I loved them. Man, they must have crushed this so hard. I gotta go play this now.
Oh, am I the only one that's played this?
You might be. At least,
I think so.
Can't speak for Ben.
Yeah.
Really well done. Both the relationship itself is really well done. It also does a good job of very realistically, kind of organically handling. Your role in this is basically like giving Parvati advice, and it does a good job of just pulling in the whole like her being like, hey, would you want to go get drinks? Just kind of the awkwardness, the experience of trying to help a friend. Like it's just all the way around well done.
Nice. Yoglin says, Dee and Roger from Elden Ring. They're former partners that ended up taking very different approaches to dealing with those who live in death, but still refer to each other with a certain level of affection, so a lot of people headcanon them as ex-boyfriends. It's hinted at in the comedy manga, too. I didn't catch that in the game, but also I am kind of oblivious to a lot of this, too, so there we are.
I didn't know there was a manga.
Yeah, it's kind of a gag manga kind of deal. It doesn't follow the story. It's charming, but also kind of not what you would expect and not what a lot of people are looking for with it. You know, art's very good though.
I do love my favorite part of D is just it continuing from Soft's weird thing of like, let's make a reference by which we mean just straight up calling it the exact same thing.
Yeah, why not? Let's see. Moxie, what does Ray say? There are two of them here.
Sure. Ray says, Marin in Link's Awakening, the small town girl who wants to leave and sees the handsome newcomer as both a love interest and a way out. Tragically star-crossed because escape for her means turning into a seagull.
Yep.
It meant a lot as a kid. You can also literally pick her up, which was neat. And then goes on to say, while it's not the protagonist, the secondhand account of the queer teenage romance, geared with the punk rock soundtrack, absolutely made me fall in love with Gone Home. I've never been so nostalgic for something I've never had. Yeah, Gone Home's pretty great.
Gone Home is good. Man, I just had nothing can replace that first time playing it. Mm-hmm. Before you knew exactly what was up.
Right.
Yeah. Jala, what does Dog Nozzle say?
Dog Nozzle says, Antea and Red from Banishers are pretty great. They start the game as two people in a committed relationship, so it's not a falling in love story. It's about a couple navigating the extraordinary events that happen to them. Spoilers, I guess. Haha.
Yeah. Also never heard of it. Shit. Am I out of touch? Yeah.
Surely you've heard of this next one.
Yes.
Thrensta nailed it. Definitely won this one.
Read it, Dennis.
Yeah, Thrensa says, Doom Guy and Isabel forever. And by way of explanation, Doom Eternal and New Horizons were coming out the same day, and there was a large amount of adorable crossover fan art.
Yeah. It was cute. It was also a very weird time.
We needed something to cling to,
yeah.
And I'll be damned if this wasn't it.
I wanted to say, didn't like Smash Bros or something kind of lean into that some?
Yeah, there's like a Doom Me you can play, so you can have Isabel fight with him. She's a variant of the Animal Crossing guy, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Finally, Naveen says, I always liked the bond that Prince and Elika that Prince and Elika form in Prince of Persia from 2008. It even did The Last of Us's ending years prior to that game, and I think more effectively.
The Last of Us did it pretty damn effectively, so that's high praise.
That's frustrating because that game is just called Prince of Persia, which it shouldn't be, and also you just like can't get a hold of it. It's like not available on any storefront or anything now.
Is that right?
Which one was this? Because there were two Prince of Persias, and both of them actually had pretty sweet like pairing between the prince and the princess.
Yeah, so you're thinking of like Sands of Time with the prince and Farah. This is the 2008 one that had like the kind of cartoony art style.
Yeah. So both of those were actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
And you literally couldn't die because Elika would rescue you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not that I think that game is especially great or anything. It's just that is a weird era that is becoming a dark, like a blind spot as emulation starts to get kind of harder to do.
I'd stand up for that game. I have very fond memories.
Oh yeah, no, I don't have a strong opinion about it. So it's not like I'm saying oh my gosh, it's amazing. Yeah. So yeah, for me, I'm going to say, I got a couple. I'm going to go with like recency bias here. I really like the romance path in Cyberpunk 2077 for Judy, the hacker lady. Like her story about trying to win independence for the augmented sex workers at the kind of cyber brothel thing, that kind of turning into kind of you ending up in this kind of complicated relationship with her, especially so soon after grieving over her girlfriend that she lost, kind of as part of the story there. It's just really neat and well done, and lifted by a performance that kind of really carries it. If I'm going to go with something less mainstream, I'm going to say Elster and Ariane in Signalis. I think that is very sweet, just in terms of like, okay, if I'm going to pick a romance in a game that is just like an integral part of the story, as opposed to, you know, here's an array of dolls in the game that you can smash their parts together. You know, yeah. Signalis being a horror game that's kind of built around that is a real treat. Moxie,
man, I'm big into shipping like anime, you know, TV shows, stuff like that. Less so video games. I think the one that comes to mind is probably Zagreus and Dusa.
Oh yeah,
from Hades. Both in terms of like they are the characters that I like outside of actually canon, like, you know, like the idea of them getting together, but also the way it's handed canonically on like why they don't get together is also really cool, and like another great example of ace representation.
Mm-hmm. Nice. In a game that is exceptionally horny, trying to find a room for ace representation must have been difficult. It's cool,
very
that
fair.
they tried. Yeah. Jala.
Real easy. Sherry and Jake from Resident Evil 6.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, what's his name? Brick Guy and his Twink.
Chris and Pierce. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, also good.
Yeah. It just like Jake and Sherry both being the biologically augmented offspring of horrible pharmaceutical monsters.
Yeah.
Like literally being the only people who can understand each other's life experience is good. Yeah.
Well, and
I've said this before.
Oh, go ahead, Jala.
Well, all of their chemistry when they're bantering back and forth, especially when you are in the cave where Ustanak is raging around and you have to hide from him. Like you have to get his attention and then hide from him. Like when they're in the dumpsters and stuff, like they just have some of the funniest shit that they say to each other. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's sweet, but it's overall pretty great.
Nice.
Man, I think I've said this before, but I just feel so bad for Sherry as like the only character in that game with more than 2 brain cells.
Yeah, she is running around with a bunch of dummies.
Well, and not only that, but like she has to keep getting saved from everything by every single character. Mm-hmm. It's like, come on, you're like, oh yeah, she's an independent woman. No, she's not. I'm an independent. No, you're not. Like the whole game.
Oh man, I do think it's funny that we got playable Sherry before we got like a playable return of Jill. That is really funny. And I guess Resident Evil 3 counts. Shit, forget it. Forget I said that. And finally here, Dennis.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a poll from an older game and say the Heavy and Sasha from Team Fortress 2.
The Heavy and his gun?
Yeah. No, so for real answer would be from the Uncharted series, Nathan and Elena.
From 2?
I mean, from the whole thing. So they start out as not together in 1 and I believe not together in 2 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Although like the romance kind of blossoms across 2. Oh no. So it starts in 1. In 2, there's another character, Chloe, that kind of serves as a wedge between them, but they're made up by the end of it. And then at the beginning of 3, kind of a key point is that they are divorced or separated, or like clearly they've been together and something's gone wrong. And over the course of 3 and 4, you kind of see their arc back together.
Yeah. I mean, like 4, they're like married. You're playing Crash Bandicoot as like dinner's finishing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that spoke to me just because it felt, it wasn't like, oh, they're cute. Will they, won't they? And then it's all happy. Like you can really feel the scrapping to try to make the relationship work across the years, which was cool to see. So
nice.
But yeah, heavy in his gun is pretty epic as well.
Also counts. I couldn't remember if Sasha
Who touched Sasha?
I couldn't remember if Sasha was the gun or the sandwich. Yeah.
No, I got to find the name for the sandwich.
I think it's just the sandwich.
I am shocked that we did not have any Overwatch ships.
I don't know that any of us played enough Overwatch to be crazy into
Nobody from Overwatch romances. They just hook up.
No.
Okay, fair enough.
You made somebody really angry with that. I'm going to get a fucking brick through my window.
Right.
Well, thanks everybody for responding. We got a bunch this time. Appreciate you. If you would like to participate in these in the future, follow the Level Podcast on Blue Sky and watch for the prompts to go up on Monday afternoons. And thank you, Dennis, for posting the question.
The End Boss.
Now it is time for The End Boss, where we talk about things that are happening in the world of video games and how we feel about them. I'm going to lead off here with some details from the State of Play event that Sony put on last week, with some game announcements and some details of games that have already been announced. The things that stick out to me, these are not the big things, but it's my story, so I get to choose this. We have a release date for Metal Gear Solid Delta, the Unreal 5 remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater that feels like it has been developed forever. So that is coming out on, where is that? I think it's like August. Where is that? Oh, come on. One moment. That is on August 28th.
Sometime in some place.
Yeah. End of summer there. And then a new game that was actually like revealed a few years ago. So a new game in the Dark Pictures Anthology. The Supermassive, it's the Until Dawn and the Quarry people. There's sci-fi horror entry in that. They went from being annual and then they skipped a couple of years, and they're coming back this year on October 2nd with Directive 8020, which I'm very curious about. Them dipping into the Event Horizon Dead Space kind of genre a little bit for this, as they make a grand tour of horror genres,
Directive 8020, the real horror is the Pareto principle.
I guess. What is the Pareto principle? That is...
you get 80% of the effort by 20% of the work.
Oh, okay. I always get that in the
real big in Silicon Valley.
Oh, yeah. Scott Adams talked about that a lot. So that speaks to how valid it is. Yeah, I always get that mixed up with the Peter principle. Regardless, there's other stuff. Like there's a new game from Housemarque. What do they make? Returnal, like the Returnal people. There's also a Lies of P prequel game called Overture coming out. A few different things, but those two release dates were the ones that stuck out for me. Anything stick out to anybody else there?
I haven't had a chance to look through it yet, so
yeah.
It did at the time, and I forgot because things have happened since then. And also, I don't tend to hold on to excitement for things coming out. Y'all know me by now.
yeah. I didn't know if there was like something announced that like
there were some blips that I was like, oh, that sounds really cool, and then I promptly forgot all about it. So
yeah.
The only thing that stood out to me is from this picture. I'm glad that Snake finally found someone that shares his love of mullets.
Yeah. Oh, that's the boss. Yeah. Or no, that's Eva in the picture in the chat. There we go. Let's see here. Speaking of like things that exist and are announced, Dennis, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I saw that Monaco 2 is going to be coming out, which is very exciting because Monaco, the kind of top-down team-based heist game with just oodles of style in its presentation, was an early favorite for co-op play. Mm-hmm. This new iteration goes from a top-down look to a more isometric approach. Mm-hmm. So you're working with 3D models instead of sprites. The characters look like they have lots of character. That's good. But I'm a little bit worried about what I'm seeing as they're moving around the level. So one of the things that was most iconic about Monaco was that anywhere you didn't have line of sight, the map would revert back to essentially a blueprint of the building. And that just worked so well and looked so cool. And looking at Monaco 2, it seems like they might be moving away from that. Where there's definitely like a planning mode where it seems like you're moving around the blueprint of the map. And then once you're in, while areas might, have a little bit of a fog of war look to them, I don't see it going full on blueprinty. Yeah. So, this is purely a reaction based on early visuals. There's no release date announced for this yet. But man, I hope they do something to nod to that incredible visual design in the first game. Yeah. Just based on what I'm seeing here, like it looks like they're trading in a lot of the visual identity from the original. Yeah. I mean, and keeping the blueprint aspect could go such a long way towards retaining it. Yeah. And I don't begrudge a game from going into 3D or anything like that. Like it's been a long time since the last Monaco, and 12 years. It's fine to try new approaches to visual presentation, but you got to understand what made the first game iconic. So waiting, excited for it, and holding my breath that they will get the visual upscale right. Yeah.
So if this does end up being as good as the original, though, we should definitely do this for Duck Stream.
Mm-hmm. Fingers crossed. If it's out by that time, like I said, there is no release date.
Cool.
Jala, what happened at the Oscars? That's weird. Or Grammys, rather.
Game.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, a video game won a Grammy. So, Wizardry, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord, had the best score soundtrack. And the very first Wizardry was back in the 80s, as most people already know.
Didn't even have music.
Yeah, exactly. So like when they were doing a remake of this, then they were like, well, now we have to come up with a soundtrack, y'all. And so they did. And then that finally popped out to win a Grammy. So cool. Also, I did not know this, but in 2023, that's when they actually added a category for video games. And basically before then, video game music was largely ignored. And so now that they have a category, now they're forced to pick one. The end.
Yeah. I don't know if that even gets in the ceremony. It's been forever since I've watched the Grammys, but
right.
Oh yeah, and the previous, I don't know, the previous examples don't have a lot of character to them. The previous winners, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, a DLC for Assassin's Creed Valhalla,
right,
and then Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So,
yeah.
And Moxie, round us out.
Yeah, so Valve has released the source code for Team Fortress 2. So presumably, if you want to now create a dating game between Heavy and Sasha, now is the time to do it. Yeah, that is literally all I have. Like, it's literally a link. I posted a link to the GitHub where you can download it. Yeah. I did see someone say that the one drawback of this is that the source code for the source engine is not open source.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a bummer.
So that I honestly I don't know to what degree, what sort of limitations that puts on things. I don't know enough to know that, but yeah. It's, still though, more open source is better than less open source.
Yeah. It's also kind of like a weird funeral for a game when that happens, too.
Well, I had heard some speculation. Apparently, like, Team Fortress 2 has just been taken over by bots and has been considered, like, largely unplayable.
Huh. That's a bummer. Yeah. Well, I mean, good on them for releasing it. I mean, it's also like a little bit of, not a fait accompli, but like a little bit moot just because of how moddable and expandable it was to begin with the tools that were already out there. But still, as a matter of principle, good.
Yeah.
How does everybody feel about buttoning it up?
Zippers.
Buttons.
There we go.
The credit.
Thank you so much for listening to level number 533. We appreciate you taking the time. If you want to help us out, you know what to do. You can subscribe on Patreon. You can leave a rating or review. Tell your friends. In relation to the Patreon, making this announcement wherever I can, the way that content is delivered is changing. They are now offering individual feeds for the different shows that we do. So you're going to need to resubscribe to every show that you listen to because they're separated out now, but this gives you way more control. And I no longer have to rely on unreliable third-party systems to make this happen. And hopefully I will do much less tech support. Yeah. So details on that are on the Patreon. I'm going to be updating the literature there over the course of, it should be done by the time this episode comes out. Jala, what's going on over at Jala's place?
Yeah, so the most recent episode that came out last was the trauma response episode, and the next episode to come out is on Kindred the Embraced, the 1995 TV series based on Vampire the Masquerade. So it's kind of weird pitching the same thing over and over. The Kindred episode will come out like the day that this comes out, so that one will be out. That will be the most the freshest possible episode of my show. I was going to say I talked about these last week. Oh, wow. Yeah, I talked about these like the week before because we were in between the weeks. And wow, it's weird being on here when I've got a bi-weekly other show. Anyway, every week. So, yes, that's what I've got coming out down the pipes. So, yay.
Cool. Is there anything I'm forgetting?
No.
I don't think so.
Cool. Well, I have been Kole Ross. You can find me on Blue Sky at Kole Ross.
I've been Dennis Furia. You can find me on Blue Sky at Furia Games.
I've been Moxie. You could theoretically find me on Blue Sky, but I don't actually post.
And I persist in being Jala-chan in all the places you can find me.
And stick around for some titles.
I have 3.
Okay.
Forced feedback, baby.
Okay.
Go fast and break things.
I don't like that. That's like actually Facebook's motto, and it is part of the reason why we're in this mess.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Well, we'll take that
that's
out.
Fine. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that's
and then Brick Guy and his Twink.
all right.
I'm voting for Brick Guy and his Twink.
Okay. Dennis,
good.
what do you have?
Okay, I've got 5, so pretty heavy night. First is Din Wiesel.
Okay.
Second is Thing and a Miss, which was a groaner, but I had to write it down. Next is Fang and Vanilla.
Okay.
And then Smash Their Parts Together.
Yep.
Okay.
And then finally, Heavy and Sasha.
Okay. Moxie.
All right, so I had Thing and a Miss. For some reason, I spelled it like MISS, but I don't think that's
That's the dating game version.
right. Exactly. I forgot what anchor meant, and then I had Brick Guy and his Twink.
Okay. I mean, I think it's got to be Brick Guy.
Brick Guy.
Yes.
All right.
Down for that.
Cool. It is decided.